Thank you so much for having me today. So my name is Lizzie Caughey. So I am the BRC, so the NIHR Exeter BRC Chief Operating Officer. So mine is an operational, non-academic role. So I work alongside the director of the BRC, which is Professor Sally Lamb. So my role is to sort of manage the day-to-day operations of the BRC and also the day-to-day sort of linkages with the other NIHR infrastructure. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you today. So I'm going to start off with a really basic sort of what is a BRC. Please do stop me and tell me to shut up if you know all of this, but I always feel like it's better to start with kind of the real basics of what a BRC is. Then I'm going to talk a little bit more about sort of our research focuses in our BRC and some of the linkages we've been making with some of the local NIHR infrastructure. And sort of, we've only been going 6 months, so some of the kind of key successes over the first 6 months and what we're looking to do in the future. So please do feel free to jump in at any point if there's anything that you want to sort of clarify in the moment. And of course, I'm really happy to stick around for questions at the end. So we're going to kick off with and this is where my screen won't work. Let me skip forward. There we go. I'm going to kick off with what actually a BRC is. So an NIHR Biomedical Research Centres, they're collaborations between world-leading universities and NHS organisations that bring together both academics and clinicians to translate lab-based scientific breakthroughs into potential new treatments, diagnostics and medical technologies. So the term bench to bedside is bandied around a lot. And that tends to be sort of a really neat way of summing up what we're trying to do in the BRC. We're trying to take that kind of cutting edge research and translate it straight into medical technology and diagnostics and treatments. So there are 20 BRCs across the UK. You can see a map there on the screen. As you can see, they're all concentrated across England. So they receive huge amounts of funding over the next 5 years. So £860 million will be spent on BRCs over the next 5 years. We're a really small one, so 15.6 million for the Exeter BRC. And it's a role all around creating an environment where experimental medicine can thrive. So just to give you a bit of kind of geographical background, up until the last round, there were no BRCs below Bristol and Southampton. We are the first in the kind of Southwest Peninsula, and we're the only new BRC in the last round. So there tends to be kind of a big concentration, as you can see there in the Golden Triangle, and a huge amount of the funding has historically and continues to be focused around London. We're really excited that the Southwest Peninsula, and I'll go into a little bit more about what I mean by the Southwest Peninsula and our various partners in a minute, has a BRC now. We're really, really excited to work across the Southwest and with our other NIHR infrastructure, particularly the CRF. It's a huge amount of funding. We are not taking this lightly. We're very excited by the opportunity to have this BRC and for the kind of to prove ourselves after this first 5 years, in the hope that we'll be able to go back and request even more funding for more research in 2027. So what do we do in the Exeter BRC? So BRCs are themed based. So you submit around research areas and you have to have sort of world leading research areas. So these are the 5 themes of the Exeter BRC. So we've got genetics and genomics. You may have seen some really fabulous recent kind of good news stories coming out of Exeter around our genomics work. So with Emma Bapel and working really closely with RDUH. So that's a really exciting theme that we've got going. We've got rehabilitation, which is led by Professor Sally Lamb, who is our director, alongside Professor Helen Dawes. So that's, again, a really exciting theme. And lots of sort of great linked research to our European research centres as well there with rehabilitation. We've got clinical mycology. So clinical mycology, lots of research around fungal and respiratory, and a really important emerging area. So it's an area that historically has probably received more funding from an international standpoint. It tends to, the kind of fungal diseases tend to have affected people more not in the UK, but as we move forward, they're becoming more and more prevalent in the UK and sort of resistant to various medications. So it's becoming a really, really important area for the NIHR to fund. And then diabetes, you'll all be aware of Professor Andrew Hattersley's kind of world-leading work in diabetes. So of course, this is a really important part of the BRC. And last but absolutely not least is neurodegeneration. So particularly focusing on Parkinson's, Alzheimer's area of work, but more and more sort of trying to pick up some wider psychiatric areas as well. So those are our 5 themes, and we've got various theme leads. So to be a theme lead, you have to really know your stuff. So if we use Andrew as an example, obviously he's a world leading researcher, professor, academic, and whilst not all of our theme leads will be quite as advanced as Andrew, they're all absolutely kind of heavy hitters in the academic world. And we tend to, across the 5 themes, we've tried to split the theme leads across a more of a clinical based academic and more of an kind of a traditional research based academic, to make sure that we're sort of maintaining that really important clinical link across all of the research areas. So I mentioned that we're trying to sort of really focus on the next round whilst bedding in on this round. And that includes thinking about and using our funding to try and get us into that place with some further themes to submit. So the 2 themes that we're currently thinking around building up and sort of linking into those other 5 themes are psychiatry and respiratory. And there are obvious links across all of those themes into these emerging themes. So as we move forward and I talk a little bit about the capacity building that we're focusing on across the BRC, we'll be focusing sort of little bits of money, little pots of money and areas of effort onto these 2 themes as well, in the hope that by the time we get to 2027, we can submit for 7 themes for our next round of BRC funding, if we're lucky, fingers crossed. So you've heard me talk about the Southwest Peninsula a lot. Obviously this BRC is called the NIHR Exeter Biomedical Research Centre. When we submitted, we wanted to be called either the Southwest Partners BRC or the Southwest Peninsula BRC. We were told no by the NIHR. It's not completely clear of the reasoning, but it had to be the Exeter BRC, which actually doesn't really acknowledge just how important that wider Southwest Peninsula relationships are to us and to the BRC. So you can see here, slightly out of date, but you can see all of the partners that actually make up our BRC. And in the green on the top right, particularly important to us are our NHS trust partners. So I'll just run through those quickly. So we've got St George's, which is a bit of an anomaly, and that's because of the clinical mycology link. So they're obviously a London-based trust, but we've got the Royal Cornwall Hospital Trust, the Cornwall Foundation Trust, the Devon Partnership Trust, Somerset Foundation Trust, and of course RDUH are kind of key, the top partner with the BRC. So we've spent the last sort of 6-7 months since the BRC kicked off on December the 1st, 2022, actively going out into those trusts, building those relationships even further than we already had, really getting those partners involved in the BRC, getting their clinicians interested in coming over and supporting us. So that's been a really sort of joyful is too strong a word, but really exciting part of the kind of kicking off this project is really cementing those relationships with those trusts. I won't spend a huge amount of time on this slide, but you can see the kind of breadth and different partners that we've got that make up the BRC. So we've got industry partners, we've got large pharmaceutical companies, we've got special links with some of the other BRCs. Obviously, we've got the CRF on there, goes without saying, but also the CRN, the Patient Recruitment Centre. We're working really, really closely with the ARC. So all of those other NIHR bodies are really, really important to us. And then on the top left, you've got some charity partners that are an important part of what we're doing as well. I will move on to the next slide now. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's really important to be aware that being part of a BRC, you're then expected to be part of TRCs. So we've got so many acronyms here. So TRC stands for Translational Research Collaboration. And these are collaborative groups of world-leading investigators established by the BRCs with significant expertise in specific disease areas. So the idea is that we bring together a network of these excellent researchers and academic staff and clinicians from across BRCs to deliver early phase translational research at scale across the UK, across the different network of BRCs. So the idea is that they're sort of an open door, sort of a one door policy for people in the life sciences industries, charities, other funders and partners to kind of knock on the door and sort of access a huge swathe of scientific excellence from across the BRC. So Angela actually sits on our cardiovascular one for us. And I'm just going to skip to the next slide, which shows you the breadth of the different TRCs that are currently in existence. So there's respiratory, arthritis, dementia, diet and activity, British Heart Foundation cardiovascular one, which Angela very kindly represents Exeter on, the mental health TRC and the oncology TRC. And throughout the 5 years of this BRC round, it may be that these adjust slightly. So they don't want to ever have more than 7 or 8 because they don't want to dilute them. But it may be that ones come to an end and other ones sort of spring up in their place. So this is a really exciting part of being part of a BRC, is being part of the TRCs. And we take that really seriously, and we're really excited to be part of them. We've already had some spin out opportunities, for example, through the dementia TRC and through the mental health TRC as well. There's already got some sort of extra funding projects, research projects coming to Exeter via them. So it's a great thing to be part of. So I've talked a little bit about our research areas, our thematic research areas, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what the actual BRC actually is. So it's really important to sort of understand that the BRC grants are infrastructure grants. So they're designed to pump prime and grow through future investment through capacity building. So it's all around building researchers of the future, building and enabling clinicians to do research, senior clinicians to do research now, and bringing PhD students on, sort of building internships. So we're sort of getting slowly but surely growing those thematic research areas in the Southwest. So we're really extremely committed to collaborative working with all of our regional partners, particularly, the CRN, the CRF, the Research Design Service. They've all been really instrumental in helping us shape our strategies over the first 6 months. We have received some really excellent feedback from the NIHR about how we sort of have tackled EDI and PPIE in submitting our strategies, but also how we sort of presented ourselves in the bid. And the PPIE, we owe a huge debt to the CRF, to Kim, to Angela, and to all of yourselves, obviously, because without sort of that joint breadth of experience, our PPIE sort of approach would be nowhere near as strong as it is now. And we're just really, really grateful that we've sort of been able to take the learning points that the CRF have made in conjunction with yourselves. So I just wanted to sort of flag that and say a big thank you to that. So a really key focus for us is building that diverse and representative cohort of researchers for the future. And another key facet of what we're sort of underpinning our BRC work is around digital and AI in health research. We're really clear and conscious and cognizant of the fact that digital research, AI research, and that intersection with health will be a huge focus going forward. So we're really trying to get on the front foot with that and make sure we've got those cohesive strategies around those running through right from the start. So this is what we said we'll do. So we're funding at least 10 PhD studentships across the 5 themes, and we've already got 6 high quality students in place for September. On a future slide, I run through quickly what their projects will be. We'll fund 12 senior investigator clinical fellowships and 10 mid-career clinical fellowships to develop and shape their research area over the course of the grant. So these senior investigator clinical fellowships and mid-career clinical fellowships are aimed at not just doctors, they're aimed at all allied health professionals. And the idea is that we'll fund groups of clinicians who have an interest and expertise in research to actually come into Exeter, work with our theme leads either 1 day a week or 2.5 days a week in the mid-career ones, to focus on research projects and really get that translational research going. They'll be nested and embedded within themes, and the idea is that their combination of clinical expertise and research expertise will be able to really pump prime those research areas. We're also funding 10 2-year full-time academic translational fellowships, so that's more of a focus on a kind of traditional academic fellowship. We'll be spending nearly 2 million on pump priming high quality research projects across the 5 themes for our small projects fund. So really the idea behind those is building capacity and I'm speaking too much, future-proofing these research areas in the Southwest. So the idea is that that funding is available to all BRC members. So that's not just sort of Exeter University-based academics. Clinicians and others are able to bid into those funds. And it's really exciting. So the kind of each project is capped at 50k, and the idea is that these are pump priming research projects, so getting people to a position where they're able to apply for even bigger fellowships or even bigger funding projects to sort of do even more transformational work around the right kind of research themes. So something that we're doing is we've actually got a professor in practice who is an anaesthetist, Seb Brown, who's done some really amazing work kind of producing and working on spin-out companies around health tech. So he's sort of our professor in practice, our professor in residence, who's working with our BRC members to offer kind of that high quality support. This is how I've done it, this is how you can do it. So we can really get to start some kind of exciting entrepreneurship opportunities spinning out. And we've got lots of dedicated PPIE resource to support our researchers to build their experience and knowledge in using this, better to improve their grant proposal, and of course, most importantly, the experiences and outcomes for patients. So that's kind of a really whistle-stop tour of what we said we would do with the funding. Things that we've already done so far. So those, I won't run through all of the different names, but you can see the 6 PhD students that we've got starting in September. So that was the first thing that we did when we kicked off in January, was went out to recruit some really exciting PhD students within the themes. And we've got 12 senior clinical fellows starting in September. So those are experts that will span diabetes, mycology, neurodegeneration, older age psychiatry, rare blood diseases and cancer from across all of our Southwest Partner Trusts, not just our Exeter Partner Trust, will be joining us a day a week. And that includes a mix of doctors and allied health professionals, which is really exciting because we want to make sure that we are working across that whole group. I'll share, obviously these slides will be shared, so you'll be able to read a bit more detail if you're interested. It's been a full-on 6 months, if I can be completely honest. We had to hit the ground running, really important. We got the funding sort of spending, and we got these really important posts in place so the research could get going. So what have we done in the first 6 months? So we've appointed 19 members of BRC staff. We've confirmed our professor in practice in post. We've awarded 6 PhD students, 10 senior investigator fellows, and provided 3 consultant research awards. We've launched our BRC newsletter and interim BRC website. I hope you'll all be on the BRC newsletter. I'll make sure that I get a list from Kim, and I can add you to that mailing list unless you've got any concerns, obviously, about sharing your details. So with Angela's support and Kim's support, we hosted the NIHR team on a successful visit to the BRC Rilden CRF. We've really importantly for me, we've held some really meaningful discussions with the R&D directors and CEOs of all the partnership trusts. Really important to us. I know I keep going on about this, but that we are not Exeter-centric, that we are across the Southwest Peninsula as a whole. We've solidified our relationship with the CRF, obviously more to do, but I feel like we've got a brilliant working relationship with Kim and Angela and the wider CRF team, and that's really exciting to me. And also the CTU, Clinical Trials Unit, via both joint strategies and sort of future staffing appointments. And we supported 5 research projects to be showcased at the British Science Festival in September, which we're really excited about. I hope you'll all be coming to the British Science Festival. We've held some 5 theme afternoon sessions away days involving loads of different clinicians and academics, where loads of sort of exciting connections were made, and you could see research projects sort of being twinkles in people's eyes and really getting going on the basis of those. We've got our October launch event that we're planning, which again, we'd love you to join us if you were interested in joining us at that. So our director has attended 3 BRC director meetings, which are quite big deals. They're full days, but you get a lot of information and kind of exciting opportunities out of those. So our PPI strategies, which is a joint one with the CRF, alongside our EDI strategy, which is also a joint one with the CRF, and our IP strategies and our academic capacity development strategies are all with the NIHR. Excitingly, our PPIE strategy, no doubt thanks to Kim and to Angela and to all of you, was accepted with flying colours, so that's great. Lots of TRC meetings attended, some spin-off funding already achieved via the TRCs, and we kicked off our first research software engineering project, and for me, very importantly, we successfully closed out the first financial year on target. So that was obviously only a 4-month financial year, but really important to the NIHR that we are spending what we said we would spend. So that was why it was so important to get those competitions going. So I'm going to finish off with the last slide. So you can see Professor Sally Lamb's there on the left. I'm there in the middle, and Sophie, who is my training and events manager, who also looks after EDI as well. We'd love to chat. So if any of you want to talk more about the BRC, I'd absolutely love that. So feel free to get in contact. And yeah, we've got another exciting newsletter coming up, which you can get to know various bits of our staff and some of our research projects. So as I said, if you're happy, I'll get you all added to that mailing list and you can learn a bit more about the BRC like that. So I'm going to stop sharing now and I'm going to take a drink because my throat is starting to hurt from talking. And if anyone's got any questions, I would love to discuss them.
Thanks, Lizzie.
Sorry, everybody, I had a power cut. Sorry, Lizzie.
Oh, Angela, did you miss it?
Yeah, I missed it. Well, I got the first bit and then I missed the middle bit. Power cut, everything went off, but we're back on again now. So.
I think what's always got me about the BRC is not actually a physical entity. It's not like you have like the CRF where you actually got a place to go and meet the researchers. So I think one of the important things to get is the idea of it is an institution as such, but it's not a physical.
Yes, I agree. The amount of emails I get from people who want to come and exhibit in the centre or you know, want to come and hot desk in the centre, and I have to sort of explain that actually we're sort of almost a virtual institute rather than anything else. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you just assume it will be like the CRF, it will be somewhere physical you can go to.
We're not unique in that, though. I think all of them are like that. Lots of them are spread around loads of different buildings like we are. And
yeah, absolutely. I went to visit Bristol and she was at pains to tell me there's nothing to actually visit.
yeah.
But I think that's quite a good message to get across there, isn't it? Because I definitely had this perception there should be a physical centre or a floor in one of the buildings somewhere that is BRC.
Maybe one day.
Is there any questions from Rini or Bob or any at the moment?
I don't have any. I mean, I probably didn't understand half the acronyms, but I think I got the gist of it, which is probably enough at this point, but really, really interesting. And I'm terribly impressed by your enthusiasm. It was very concise, but it's lovely to hear someone talking so positively about something that they're embarking upon. Really, really very interesting. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's such a lovely thing to say. I am really excited. I think I've been at the university sort of 13 years now, and getting to be at the start of something, and especially start of something like this. What an opportunity! Sort of what an exciting thing to be part of. So yeah, I am very enthusiastic.
Thank you.
My thoughts entirely.
Thank you. The acronyms, I do feel like I'd never heard. I mean, CRN, CRF. BRC,
ARCs,
TRCs, yeah.
So, Andy, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, apologies for my camera not working. Am I coming through on the microphone?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, thank you. Very quickly, just for any of you who don't know me, I'm one of the senior nurses for the CRF in Exeter. I work alongside Claire Ball. I've only fairly recently joined, so obviously the BRC is quite a new thing for me, and which is obviously one of the reasons I've tuned in today. It might be Angela's going to touch on this, but I was just wondering if you could give me and the rest of us an insight as to what's in the pipeline, selfishly for me and our team in the CRF.
Yes, absolutely. So if I start and then Angela, because Angela will know a lot more, but I think the most important sort of NIHR infrastructure based relationship for me is undoubtedly the CRF. I think in setup period, we've linked really closely with Kim and Angela and team around forming what I view as massively important strategies. So probably the two most important strategies for me are the EDI strategy and the PPIE strategy. So we are sort of inextricably linked now in NIHR eyes, and sort of, you know, we have joint action plans. So for me, I hope that we work hand in glove on those things. But as our research projects develop, as you know, for example, the small project funding that I talked about, when we advertised those small projects and the opportunity to apply for funding, we were very clear that we would like people to build in, where appropriate, sort of the CRF. We're very keen that we help drive don't want to say business, but that we help drive users to the CRF and ultimately more funding for the CRF. It's something that for me and for Sally as director will be one of our key outcomes, and kind of key success measures is sort of the success of the CRF should be inextricably linked to the success of the BRC. So whilst I can't say anything concrete at this point, it is very much forefront in my mind. And I'll pass over to Angela now.
And Andy, if you think of the things that you already know are coming into the CRF, so the Professor Celia Morgan's clinical research studies looking at psychedelic drugs, they really fit into the rehabilitation theme. I mean, I didn't hear what Lizzie said about the rehabilitation theme, but you might think of it as all musculoskeletal. But of course, rehabilitation from addiction is really, really important part of rehabilitation. And all of her work is that. So all of those psychedelic drug studies that are coming into the CRF, all part of the BRC. And then, of course, in the neurodegeneration area, we've got the new PI, Sam Hughes, who went to the PRB last week to the Patient Review Board last week to bring forward his studies looking at pain and looking at getting volunteers to take part in whether virtual reality can reduce the amount of pain patients feel. And that he's one of the new PIs, which is going into the neurodegeneration theme, for example. You know what the diabetes is. Medical mycology, I'm not really quite so sure what we'll get through, but actually with respirology, which you saw as a leading, one of the things that is leading going forward, obviously there's a lot of tissue bank work that we do for respirology, and the Exeter 10,000 has also provided resources for respirology, they are working in cystic fibrosis with medical mycology, looking at one of the fungi that is instrumental in causing problems with patients with cystic fibrosis, called Aspergillus. We host one of their PhD students doing that. So I think actually there's a lot that we're already doing. We just don't recognize it as BRC linked work. But you can see that all of that, which I've just described, is really very new stuff that we've been doing and broadening our portfolio. And I think, that we'll get a lot more work coming in from the small projects, but also as we advertise what we can do more, and as there are more and more new staff coming through, I think we'll get a lot of work coming in collaboration with the tissue bank and with Exeter 10,000 and volunteer requests. For example, Rob Merton is also, rehabilitation. There's loads of stuff which is relevant. So it's not that there are going to be 60 new principal investigators and they're all going to be coming through to the CRF, not in this £15 million, but what we need to do is to build the pipelines with everybody, so that we are in a position to, as Lizzie said, to bid for a larger BRC for the next time.
Because I find it quite interesting, because I am part of the CRF, but I'm now part of the BRC as well as a diabetes researcher, so it's quite, but nothing's physically changed.
No, but we love having you.
Exactly. Exactly, Kim. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I guess we all need to change our
don't worry,
sign-offs to say Exeter Centre for Diabetes, the CRF and the BRC.
Don't worry, that's going to be coming.
Yeah. So Andy, I hope that clarifies what kind of work we'll be doing.
Yes, thank you, both of you. That does. Thank you.
Because I guess there's quite a lot of overlap, isn't it? Because we would be helping the delivery of the clinical studies of the BRC, and providing them support with things like Exeter 10,000.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also supporting on the PPIE side. And we've already done that already, not only with the strategy, but I think like we had that last minute request from one of our researchers which went out to both the PRB lay representatives and the diabetes specific PPI group, and everybody was great at getting back just before the bank holiday. And again, he's working under the BRC, so we're already kind of
absolutely, you can already see
working. Yeah.
And you know, ultimately successful will be, you know, those nebulous walls that aren't really walls and everyone working across, because why wouldn't you maximize everything that's possible to maximize, and if it can serve two sort of groups at one time, then that's brilliant.
One of the interesting areas that the BRC is working in is the V stimulator, Lizzie, isn't it, up at the science park? And our colleagues probably don't know about that, but it's an EPSRC, so that's the Engineering and Physics Research Council funding body, like the MRC is for medicine, EPSRC is for engineering and physics, and it's funded for engineering and physics, but has some medical components as well. So the physicists and the engineers use it for when you build a big building, how much does the top of it shake, and can you stop it? Can you work out how much it's going to shake, and whether that's going to be felt by people, and those kind of aspects, bridges and all of those kind of things, you know. Whereas the medical teams, particularly Professor Helen Dawes and others, are using it to generate a vibrational environment, to use it as a platform for patients, for example, with Parkinson's, who are a bit disorientated anyway, to assess their disorientation and to see whether rehabilitation interventions can improve their balance and aspects. So at least that's my understanding of it.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
I apologise if that's not.
No, no, that's absolutely right.
So that's interesting, and I'm sure there are some linked aspects to that we could work more closely with in the CRF with Helen and her colleagues to bring other aspects to that work. So that's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do as well with that. So they were telling me how they have managed to make the vibrations of the platform in conjunction with
virtual reality
to make it feel like, for example, train journeys that exist. So the train journey from, for example, Newton Abbot to Exeter, with the exact same vibrations and everything, and the feeling of the heat on your side of your face if it was a sunny day, to try and equip people that maybe, so within rehabilitation, obviously as people become more nervous, for example, after a fall, they become more reticent to leave the house, and then that tends to be the first step in a kind of a downward trajectory on health. So it's around encouraging and sort of equipping people with the ability to practice bus journeys, to practice train journeys, so that they feel more confident after falls and stuff, and we can assess any interventions that people might need, to make sure that people are actually still going out in the community, are using public transport, are actually able to sort of maintain good well-being, because it's such an important part of keeping people out of hospital and keeping people healthy. So yeah, that VSIM platform is amazing. That what they can do with it. So he put it, when I was there, he put it on a train journey, and it was like, I recognize this train journey. I'm from Newton Abbot. I get train to Exeter all the time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sounds quite disconcerting in a way.
Yeah, and then he did it on jolts for me, but it's jolts without telling you. And he was like, just wait and see if you fall over. It's like, I don't enjoy this, and I did fall over. So there we go.
And Lizzie, can I just ask? I know you said that we got 5 themes at the moment, and you're really looking to go up to 7 in the next bid.
Yeah.
How many themes do most BRCs have? Are we quite standard?
That's a really good question. So I don't think I know all of the BRCs. I know they tend to be around 5 or 6 themes, but they tend to be bigger. So whilst we've got some really heavy hitter researchers obviously here, so if you take Andrew as an example, you know, best in the world, best in the business, but other themes, they've got those heavy hitters, but they've probably got more of a breadth of more researchers. So whilst we've got some really brilliant themes and researchers, we might not have the breadth. So part of it, an important part, will be building up our current themes as well as sort of new ones. But I think they tend to be around 5 to 10 themes within a BRC. And what I will say, which is quite interesting, is the NIHR as the funder can choose to award some themes but not others. So for example, another BRC, which I won't name, they had, I think, 3 or 4 themes sort of taken off them in the last round, but kept some of the other themes. If a theme is deemed to not be performing, or spending the money as they said they should, or getting the outputs that are needed, then that theme can sort of be not funded, but other themes will be. Which leaves an important sort of a constant question in my head of the kind of need to get themes to work with each other, but not at the expense of the themes themselves, if that makes sense. It's a kind of a dichotomy there of not quite sure whether to focus funds on interlocking thematic projects or to sort of keep themes in silo. But of course, keeping themes in silo is not the best outcome for patients and for treatment. So ultimately, we will encourage interaction between themes, but it's always worth bearing in mind.
Yeah, I think one thing I really like about the BRC is we know, and I know Angela knows there's a lot of clinicians that work in the hospital that are really keen to do research that just don't get the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So I think it's really great that we're kind of trying to give them time that they can come and work with us.
Yeah, it's been a joy actually to work with these clinicians and start to bring them on board. I mean, obviously the NHS as it currently is, that pressure is on people very, very, very heavily. So not everyone that we would want to come and work with us is at this point able to come and work with us. But hopefully, as things improve in the NHS, maybe, we will be able to get sort of different researchers and a wider set of researchers as we move forward in the next phase, for example. But yeah, amazing. 13 consultants will be doing a research with us a day a week from September for 4 years. How amazing is that? It's amazing.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Angela, about how the CRF and the BRC are going to work together? Just wanted.
I don't think so. No, I think that's
okay. And I just guess, is there anybody got any more questions or anything? Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Lizzie and Angela, for your input as well. And as we said, what we will do is we have recorded it, so we will put the recording up onto the CRF website and circulate a link to that recording when it's ready. And Lizzie, if you don't mind sharing your slides with us, we just
no, of course, I'll